Why isn't bowling in the Olympics? It's a question I've heard bowlers ask time and time again. Given its popularity globally, it's a surprise to many that it's still not a part of the Olympic Games. There have been many attempts over the years to get it included, and there's even been changes made to the scoring system to try and make it more appealing as a potential Olympic sport. Despite numerous attempts, we are no closer. In this video, I'm going to discuss some of the previous attempts bowling has made to be included as an Olympic sport, and also we'll talk about what I think are the three main reasons it is yet to be included. Bowling's attempt at getting into the Olympics goes all the way back to 1936. There was an International Bowling Association World Championship tournament which was held in Berlin, Germany 1 week prior to the Olympic Games. Although it was not a sanctioned Olympic Games event, but the tournament was a success and attracted 5,000 bowlers from 14 countries. But any hopes of building on this momentum to having the sport included in the 1940 Olympics were dashed due to the outbreak of World War II. From then on, it took some time for bowling to make another serious bid. Fast forward to 1988 and bowling would get just that little bit closer to becoming an Olympic sport. After many years of hard work and preparation, bowling was featured in the 1988 Seoul Olympics as a demonstration sport. This gave many hope that the sport was finally making strides, but nothing came from it. From what I understand, the event didn't necessarily feature many pros, but it did still seem to be a fairly good event by all accounts. But once again, bowlers' hopes were dashed. Now, if we jump ahead over 20 years later, we find bowling's next big attempt at finally cracking the Olympic nut. It was around 2013 that news started to circulate that bowling was preparing to make another Olympic bid. This led to a new scoring system being announced and then rolled out at the end of 2014, in the hope that this would help bolster their chances of success. Essentially, it was part of an attempt to rebrand bowling. On 22nd of June 2015, there was a shining ray of hope when it was announced that bowling had made the cut from the 28 sports to the last 8 to become a new sport in the 2020 Summer Olympics. But this dream was shattered rather quickly, as in September of the same year, it was announced that bowling had not made the cut for 2020. Instead, karate, sport climbing, surfing and skateboarding made their Olympic debut, while baseball and softball also made a one-off return. Bowling's bid for 2024 was not successful either, but 2028 seemed like it would be the perfect opportunity. Why? Well, because it's being hosted in Los Angeles, which seems like the perfect place for bowling to finally make an appearance. But yet again, it was left out. Meanwhile, skateboarding, sport climbing and surfing, which had successfully debuted as optional sports at the 2020 Olympics, will return in the same capacity in 2024 and will then be promoted to the core program at the 2028 Olympics. So what exactly has stopped bowling from becoming a part of the Olympic program, and who is preventing it from happening? Well, to answer the second question first, it's the International Olympic Committee who decide exactly which sports are included. Unfortunately, they have very stringent criteria that all sports have to meet, and they are very hot on this and are not afraid to drop sports from the Olympics if they feel they no longer meet this criteria. Now, we'll talk about the IOC and their criteria in a bit more detail later on. But let's move on to the reasons why I believe bowling is still not a part of the Olympics. Number 1, it's a complicated sport. Now, let me explain what I mean by this. Let's say, for example, the scoring system. Now, this is something that bowling tried to experiment with when the new scoring system was tested. To me, it didn't really work. Perhaps it is slightly easier to understand for someone who knows very little about bowling, but certainly bowling purists hated this system. But it's not just people struggling to understand the scoring system that is a problem. It's really a lack of understanding of the sport as a whole, because there's so many things happening that you can't see. For example, there's still so many people out there who don't know there's oil on the lanes, let alone that it's used to create different conditions for bowlers. Likewise, people don't understand the ins and outs of equipment. To them, a ball is just a round object you're trying to chuck down the lane. This is a problem because it creates a barrier that does make it difficult to enjoy for the casual viewer, and I think that this is one of the reasons why it's not made it to the Olympics so far. Number 2, it's not a level playing field. This is the one big problem that bowling has. No matter what you do, what oil pattern you put down, or the format you use, someone will always have an advantage. It's incredibly difficult to create a true equal playing field where skill is the only determining factor in a player's success. Take an Olympic swimmer, for example. Well, it comes down to technique, performance on the day, but if you're the fastest and most efficient swimmer, the most skill, your skill will prevail. With bowling, that's not necessarily the case because there's so many factors that come into play, especially luck, which, while it does play a part in many sports, luck is certainly a huge factor in bowling at times. This means that even the best and most skilled bowler in the world can be beaten for so many other factors that are outside of their control. I think this is a big reason why bowling has struggled in its quest to be part of the games. The Olympics essentially is about skill, and I don't really see how you can set up a bowling event that purely allows the participants to demonstrate skill without other factors playing a huge part in who takes home a medal. Number 3, lack of appeal to the youth. This is a big one, and in my book, it's the main reason why the IOC has not selected bowling up to this point. When you look at the criteria the IOC sets for the selection process, it clearly states the determining factor is the sport's appeal with the youth, mainly because that's where the most money is made in terms of sponsorship. So when people say, well, how is skateboarding and breakdancing in the Olympics but bowling isn't? Quite simply, it's because skateboarding and breakdancing's main audience is kids and teenagers. So that's what the IOC and the sponsors want. Unfortunately, while bowling definitely has a global reach, it just doesn't have enough of that young audience the Olympic Committee insists on. That is what is truly preventing bowling from being a part of the Olympic Games. Now, there are definitely other reasons that play a factor, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but the 3 reasons I've listed, I think, demonstrate why bowling has failed to convince the IOC, and it does show how far bowling has to go, in my opinion. So the next big question is, will it ever become an Olympic sport? I hate to say it, but I really feel that bowling's big chance was LA in 2028. I just can't see bowling making the Olympics in the near future. I think the sport has a number of problems and a long way to go. And the main issue it needs to fix is finding a way to appeal to a much younger audience, and not just the people who are already bowlers. It needs to expand to bring in more young people to the sport. This is absolutely crucial because otherwise you will never be able to convince the IOC that bowling fits their criteria without a very large audience with young people. The other side of it is that obviously money does talk, and there have been rumours, shall we say, that the IOC can be more open if a few checks happen to fall their way. So short of a big sponsor running a huge campaign for bowling in the Olympics, we have a long way to go. So to answer the question as to whether it will happen, well, in all likelihood, not in the next 10 years or so, I wouldn't have thought. But after that, if bowling can sort itself out, reinvent itself to a new and preferably younger audience, and have a big revival, then I certainly think it has a chance in the long-term future. But a lot of this is just my opinion, and I would actually be really interested to hear what you all have to say about this. So let me know in the comment section below the biggest reason that you think bowling hasn't been included in the Olympics up to this point. And also let me know if you think bowling will someday be included. And that is going to be it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's one that I've been meaning to do for quite a while now. And as always, if you have enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you would just click the subscribe button to subscribe to the channel. That will be it. And as always, thank you, bowling fans, and see you all next time.